The meeting will please come to order. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, that's what I call a pledge. We normally don't quite get that level of volume in the room. Thank you to all the student government participants who are here tonight. As I said, this is a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Wilmette. We'll call the matters in the order in which they appear on the printed agenda. There are copies of the agenda on the table by the door, so you may want to have one so you can follow along to see when your matter will be called. Now, if you plan to address us tonight, we ask you please come up to the podium, please speak into the microphone and tell us who you are and where you live, as that may be relevant to the matter at hand. We ask you speak clearly in a microphone so we can hear you, and because everything you say and everything we say is being recorded. And from those recordings, minutes of the meeting are prepared. These minutes are available on our website at wilmette.com and also in hard copy form at Village Hall. Also, our village board meetings are televised on Local Access Channel 6 and on the Internet, and if you look up, you can actually see the cameras. The red dot on the back camera indicates that it is the active camera. By televising our meetings, we make it easy for our neighbors in the community to follow the proceedings of the village board, to see the types of matters that come before us, the questions that we ask, and the policies we create. You can find archived videos of village board and other local government meetings at wilmette.com, and I'd like to personally thank all the residents of Wilmette who regularly tune in to Channel 6 to follow the workings of their local government. Now, before each meeting, the board receives a packet of agenda materials, and these materials are also posted on wilmette.com on the Friday before our board meeting so that residents and other interested parties can review the very same materials that board members receive. This week's packet contained 461 pages. We actually review them on our iPads now. They're no longer paper packets like we used to get. And we've had the opportunity to review all of that information, so if you do plan to address us tonight, we ask that you tell us the most relevant, most material, the most important points you really want us to focus on. Finally, we are a community of neighbors, and as such, we want our meetings to be as civil and courteous as possible. So as a courtesy to those around you, please take this time to turn off your cell phones and other devices. And while we're turning off our phones, would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wolf. Trustee Sullivan.
Here.
Trustee Plunkett.
Here.
Trustee Dodd.
Here.
Trustee Kurzman.
Here.
Trustee Pierce.
Here.
President Belinsky.
Here. We have 6 members, but that is a quorum. We will move on to the next item, which is item 2, public comment. During public comment, we ask if there's any member of the audience who would like to address the board on a matter which is not on the agenda. Members of the audience may address the board regarding matters which are on the agenda when the particular matter is called. So is there any member of the audience who would like to address the board on an item which is not on the agenda? May I see a show of hands? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, which is the consent agenda. As described on the printed agenda, items which are routine business that are not normally debated by the village board are placed on the consent agenda. And all items that begin with the number 3 are on the consent agenda. So tonight, that means starting on page 1 with item 3.1, and all the items on page 2, and about half the items or so on page 3, ending with item 3.17. So items on the consent agenda are up for approval tonight, and if an item is not removed by a member of the audience and not removed by one of the trustees, it will be approved and it will not be discussed. So I'll begin by asking if there's any member of the audience who'd like to remove an item from the consent agenda. May I see a show of hands? Okay. I'll move on to ask if there's any item that any of the trustees would like to remove from the consent agenda.
Item 3.13.
Item 3.13, Trustee Pierce would like to remove. Item 3.13 is approval of contract in the amount not to exceed $41,943 with BLA Inc. Itasca, BLA Inc. from Itasca, Illinois, for the design, construction, engineering services associated with the Glenview Road Bridge North Sidewalk Replacement Project. Okay, so that is not on the consent agenda anymore. Are there any other items? Okay, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll on the motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Plunkett.
Aye.
Trustee Dodd.
Aye.
Trustee Kurzman.
Aye.
Trustee Pierce.
Aye.
President Belinsky.
Aye. So the motion carries. Consent agenda has been adopted. Now, if you are here for an item on the consent agenda, it was just approved. And I'll clarify for people who are here tonight. Again, all the items beginning with the number 3, but that includes land use item 32, 33, 3.4, and 3.5. All of those have been approved. So if you were here for that item, it's been approved. There'll be no further discussion of those items or any of the other items on the consent agenda. So I think everybody here is with student government, but if you were here for one of those items, you're free to leave. But of course, you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Nobody's leaving. This is normally, oh, okay. So this is the point in the meeting where I remind people that it's still early and there's plenty of time to stop by one of our restaurants downtown before you head home. So we will move on to item 4, which is report of officers. And the first item is item 4.1, which is request for an executive session to discuss collective negotiating matters pursuant to Section 2 sub C sub 2 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. We'll move on to a report from our village manager, Mr. Frenzer.
No report, Mr. President.
We'll move on to the report from our corporation counsel, Mr. Stein.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
One question for the staff. Are we going to notice, or should we mention that our board meeting in 2 weeks is going to be starting 30 minutes earlier than normal? Is that right?
Yes, we will be doing a public notice on that, and it is actually on our webpage with the corrected time now. But the meeting on February 26th of this month, we will be beginning 30 minutes early at 7 p.m.
And that is to accommodate my schedule, actually, so I appreciate the trustees' willingness to show up early. Next item on the agenda is item 5, report of the Liquor Control Commissioner. There's no report tonight, so we'll move on to our standing committee reports. First up is Trustee Pierce with land use.
Everything was covered on consent agenda.
Next up is the Finance Committee, Trustee Sullivan.
All items on consent.
Administration Committee, Trustee Dodd.
All items covered on consent.
So Municipal Services, Trustee Wolf isn't here tonight, but item 3.13, so I will, should I take her role here, or can somebody else make the motion?
You can take either one. It doesn't
Okay,
matter.
so I guess I will move approval of a contract, the amount not to exceed $41,943 with BLA Inc. of Itasca, Illinois, for design, construction, engineering services associated with the Glenview Road Bridge North sidewalk replacement project. So I've made that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Trustee Pierce, you asked for this to be removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, thank you. I removed this because the law firm I work for represents BLA Inc., who's receiving this contract. I have no ownership interest in BLA. I'm not an employee, but I just felt it appropriate that I abstain from the matter. So.
Okay, so Trustee Pierce removed that so that he would not vote on the project of a client of his law firm. Was there any other discussion on the matter? Okay, would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Sullivan.
Aye.
Trustee Plunkett.
Aye.
Trustee Dodd.
Aye.
Trustee Kurzman.
Aye.
Trustee Pierce.
Abstain.
President Belinsky.
Aye. Okay, so the motion carries. The contract is approved. And there's nothing else on municipal services. The other 3 items were covered on the consent agenda. Public safety, Trustee Kurzman?
Yeah, actually, I do have a brief report. Last night, the Public Safety Committee met at the Community Recreation Center to discuss gun safety. The meeting was well attended with diverse attendees, some of whom not in any official capacity, but were from the schools and from the township and a number of other entities. We had a lot of, for example, social service providers there as well. We had a nice conversation on a number of issues and had civil discourse for the most part, and really positive and substantive discussions by both gun control advocates and gun owners. So I feel like it was a successful first conversation on a really difficult issue. There are two areas in which I think the committee will be pursuing follow-up. One is to promote best practices on safe storage. We learned that our police department and other parts of village government do a lot already to promote safety, and I think we're going to brainstorm ways that we can get that message out even further. A second area of interest that we will look at and do due diligence on is how Northbrook is handling its concealed carry, in its public establishment serving liquor. So those were sort of subject matter that came out in our discussions that the committee will grapple with in subsequent meetings. And that's the extent of the report.
Thank you, Trustee Kurzman. One comment, I'm very interested to hear how the Public Safety Committee, consulting with staff, comes back on the concealed carry in liquor establishments. As you know, that's something I've taken an interest in as well, and so be very interested to see what we can do in that respect. Judiciary Committee, Trustee Plunkett.
No report.
So the next item is report. I'm in the wrong spot of my agenda, apologize. Reports from special committees, and there are no reports from our special committees. Item 7 is new business. There is no new business to discuss. Item 8 is matters referred to standing committees. There's no actions to take in regard to those matters. So move on to item 9, which is adjournment. So may I have a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the collective negotiating matters pursuant to Section 2 sub C sub 2 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need to roll call for executive
Yes.
session? Okay, so would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Sullivan?
Aye.
Trustee Plunkett?
Aye.
Trustee Dodd?
Aye.
Trustee Kurzman?
Aye.
Trustee Pierce?
Aye.
And President Polinsky.
Aye. So the motion carries. We stand adjourned to executive session.